All right, we are here in a virtual room, and I'm going to declare this meeting to reconvene. I move that we reconvene. We've been in executive session. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor, raise your hands. Thank you. Okay, there's no action related to executive session that needs to be taken. The next item of business is to ratify the approval of the minutes of May 7 and May 21. Is there a motion to approve those, ratify those minutes? You've already seen them and looked at them. Approved. Motion seconded. All in favor, raise your hand. Any opposed? Same. My remarks are going to be rather brief, and we have a long meeting because it's full of reports and full of much detail. I just want to know, I don't know how you felt, but as I progressed through the summer, my perception was that the bikers and the car traffic were a little less than during the past 3 years. And from the data that we've received and we've learned in talking to rental agents and from all other indications that we're back more towards 2019 and not the busyness of during the pandemic years. Also, for whatever reason, I don't know, but the number of traffic complaints at the gate and the delays were very minimal this year. I know my personal experience, except for a couple of times when it was really backed up, the traffic moved within a reasonable amount of time. It may also be because we're going, they know we're working on the traffic, and we'll hear more about that later on. For those of you, as of a day or two ago, we have been experimenting with new signs. There is one up. I'd like you to take a look and see if you notice it. See, it'll be when you come in from the circle and approaching Sea Pines. Look particularly at the color, the visibility, and see if it strikes your eye. We had looked at signage to put a lot more signage at on Greenwood at those points. When we got the cost, it wasn't just the cost, it was the delay to put the kind of signs up that were being recommended in structure. It was going to take 12, 13 months just to get the metal formed and things of that nature. So we're going to try a few of these signs for a while, see if we get the color right. And we also got the state involved in helping us come up with the look and the verbiage of the signs. If you're going to hear a lot of reports and people want information, we understand that and we appreciate that. One of the best ways to get information is to attend these meetings and listen to all the reports. We intend to give you a great deal of information, and much of the information that we give you is information that you've asked for in individual questions. And oftentimes I get questions even after a meeting asking about information that was already in the videos and stuff. Stephanie does put timestamps where if there's a particular report you want to see and you want to listen to, you can go through it without going through the whole meeting. But today you're going to hear recommendations regarding the battery operated blowers, which has been of significant interest to a number of our property owners. If you listen to this information, hopefully that will help you. Since this meeting is going to be long, I'm limited in my comments. I do want to add one other thing. Yesterday, one of our directors, Steve Fricker, advised us he was moving out of town and that he's resigned. And that, so we will deal with that at the next board meeting, but I want to let you know that that has occurred as of yesterday. I do want to thank all of you who contribute to making our lives in Sea Pines a remarkable, good experience, and all of those who work to enhance the quality of life in Sea Pines. It's not only the staff, it's you, the property owners, and the business owners. All of you contribute to the life in Sea Pines to make it something that we enjoy. And we thank you, and we appreciate everything that everybody does. We can move together as a team and we can accomplish a lot more. We have a lot to do. We know that. We're not perfect, and that we're just going to keep trying the best we can. So with that, I'm going to move to the next item of business and ask President Sam Bennett if he has any remarks.
Thank you, David. I do have a couple of remarks. I would say most of my remarks for during the time of our staff presentations. One thing I do want to ask the board to consider, and it's something we've discussed previously, we've got a piece of property that surrounds the Murfield 2 community. And if you're familiar, Murfield Road is just off of Plantation Drive. Back in the late 90s, a number of our regimes inside of Sea Pines were going through some financial troubles, and some of them actually didn't pay their assessments on the common property that surrounded the buildings of the regime. The CSA board, in its wisdom, made the decision to not let the property go up for tax sale, and they did this with a number of pieces of property. They went to the county auction and actually bought the property at the tax sale, so that folks that didn't have a reason to be in Sea Pines didn't own the property. The property surrounding the Murfield 2 regime, it was one of those. And so really for the last 25 years, CSA has owned the property, although we have not maintained it. We haven't done anything with the property. Murfield 2 has continued to maintain the property, the roads, all of the things there on site. So we reached a point though where the Murfield 2 has asked us to consider deeding the property back to them so that it goes back to their regime. Staff recommendation is for us to do that. We think that it's appropriate for them to own the common property that surrounds their homes. And so I'll be asking the board for approval to authorize me to sign the documents to do that as soon as we've got everything finalized with our surveys and those kind of things that are necessary to complete the transaction. I think staff is very comfortable this is the right thing to do. It relieves us of any potential burden that we may have for road maintenance or any liability. This is truly something that the Murfield 2 regime should be responsible for and have been responsible for even since the time the property's been purchased. And that property adjoins, I believe, the second hole of Harbortown Golf Links, and we'll make sure that everything that needs to be done as it relates to that for property transfer is part of this process. So I'm just going to give that information to the board. I'll send the survey work out to the board so they've got it reviewed, but I would like the board's approval and authority as one of our last items for new business to give me the authorization to move ahead with making that property transfer. I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have about that.
Steve?
Sam, one question that people might be interested in is how much did CSA pay to purchase that property at the tax sale?
Steve, I don't know. I can't remember off the top of my head. It was nominal. It was not a whole lot.
You Steve, it's the amount of taxes and penalty and interest on it. And most of the property bought, well, all of the property bought was vacant. Part of it was a street, the right of way.
Right.
So I've got to believe that it's nominal, but I don't think we know the amount.
I could look it up, Steve. What we have agreed to do with Murfield is the cost associated with making the property transfer, the survey work and the title work and the legal stuff is Murfield and CSA are splitting those costs. So all that's rolled into one bucket and we'll split it 50-50. Again, we're happy to have the property off as our responsibility because there are roads and private parking and those things that CSA doesn't need to be part of as part of this. So I see it as a benefit for both of us, but I don't have the answer to your question or off the top of my head.
Leanne?
I just wanted to make another comment. We discussed this privately, and the cost of maintenance of that property for the last, 30 plus years has been borne by the Muirfield residents. So I think there's a cost benefit analysis here that could be done, both, the cost of purchase offset by the cost of maintenance. So just to put that out there.
Okay.
They have certainly maintained it themselves. We haven't done any work over there.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, do you have any other comments you want to make?
No, sir, I'll save them
Okay.
for the management reports.
Okay, we're going into management reports. The first one is operation and special projects. David Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
And good morning, everyone. I'm going to share my screen and do my best to go through these pretty quickly since there's a lot of information that you all are going to be seeing. Are you able to see the slide on your screen?
Yes, sir.
All right, very good. Just going to go through a mid-year review for the Sea Pines Forest Preserve. Wanted to start with our prescribed burning program. We've had a reasonably good year to date. 47 acres were improved over 6 burning days. The bulk of the prescribed burning activity is typically in the first quarter of the year, and it's weather related. We have on a couple occasions been able to conduct prescribed burns in December, and we will be keeping an eye on the weather and would hopefully be able to do that. We are still in the early phases or the early years of our prescribed burning program, in which we're trying to reduce the fuels that have built up literally over many, many decades out there. So at the end of the day, we try to burn what we can when we can. And if we can get something in before the end of the year, we would do that. If you haven't been out and seen any of these blocks before and after, I just wanted to show this picture. This particular block is in the general area of the shell ring. And you can see on your left there immediately after the burn what it looks like. And then you can see to your right what it looks like 1 year later. And it's actually not an entire year. It's just a growing season. So in some cases, within a few months of it going from looking like a moonscape, it looks like what you see to the right quickly comes back. Talk about a few fundraising events. We had our 8th annual Party in the Pines on the Saturday, April 6th. Had a good crowd out, good food. It was a really good event. Our annual solicitation letter will be getting mailed to owners in October, so be keeping an eye out for that next month. And we wanted to do a save the date for our 13th annual bonfire, which is coming up on November 8th, which is a Friday at 4:30 p.m. More information will be coming, so keep an eye out on the CSA community emails. And we just wanted to take this chance to once again thank all of the attendees, all the sponsors, all the auction item contributors that make this event so successful. We also wanted to give a shout out to the Salty Dog for all of the fantastic food and exceptional service that they offer. And they are participating again year's bonfire. I was just sent the menu just earlier today, and it is fantastic. And we will be publishing that in due time as well. Our beginner bird walks, these were started about 2 years ago. They have been incredibly well received. We take the summer off, but they're being reinitiated. Our first one is coming up this Friday, which is sold out. And then we have another one coming up on Friday, October 18th. These 2 walks will be hosted by master naturalists Mary Ellen Blankenship and Jack Coleman. Bob Spear, who is out of town for these 2 walks, is also involved in this process. If you haven't been, I would encourage you to go. They are fantastic. You're going to learn something. You're going to enjoy the Forest Preserve. So keep an eye out for this next walk, which is on Friday, October 18th. Keep an eye out for the CSA community email on October 10th. That will be when the tickets will be released, and they do quickly sell out. Wanted to give you a couple quick updates. We recently had the unveiling on August 27th of some artwork that 7th and 8th grade Hilton Head Prep students had done. This was last year. And so we had the unveiling on the 27th. The art is nature themed. It's fantastic. This is at the Lake Joe kiosk. You can see in that kind of upper right picture, we had about 40 people at the unveiling. Most of the students that participated in the project, their parents were there, school administrators were there. We had Forest Preserve Advisory Committee members there, and it was just a great event. But take a look next time you're out there. This artwork will be replicated at the other kiosk that is located at the walking entrance on Greenwood Drive. But this is a new process that we're using to display this art, and we want to get a confidence level that it is what we want before we replicate it. And so far, so good. We're really happy with how it looks. Just recently, September 3rd, Hilton Head Prep hosted a cross-country meet. It was a regional meet. We had over 340 runners go through the forest preserve. Had a lot of good feedback on the natural setting and the way that everything looked. They often, as you can imagine, at other meets and other areas, able to go through a 600 plus acre forest preserve. And often they're running along roadways, sidewalks. I heard some stories about barking dogs that chase them occasionally, and they were really excited to be able to come out in the forest preserve. Town ATAX grant. This is an annual process in which nonprofits are able to make application for worthy projects for consideration for ATAX money. In 2022, the Forest Preserve was the successful recipient of a grant that was used to generate new shell ring signage and accompanying videos. And then we were again successful this year, 2024, and we're going to use the funds from that to create new 18 by 24 inch color interpretive signs, at least 20, that will be used, placed throughout the preserve, in which we try to provide a little bit of information, education, some historical context, and try to get at least one of them to be interactive. And I'd like to end with this. We're particularly proud of some of the recognition that the Forest Preserve has gotten this past year. It's important to note that we, as the Forest Preserve, do not actively seek out, like us on this or go to this. And so this is completely grassroots. It's organic, that people that visit the Forest Preserve feel the need on their own to go to these sites to give us a thumbs up or to make a good comment. So we are consistently on TripAdvisor's top attractions on Hilton Head Island. And then this year, we were honored to receive from Travel and Leisure that biking was one of the top activities to do in Hilton Head in 2024. And we were actually number 4 on that list, which is something to be proud of. All right, ends my presentation. Be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
David, I want to thank you for the presentation. I got a couple of things I want to mention to the community. And I'm not sure we'll get this terminology right, but you saw the fire at the beginning of the presentation. David's done a great job over the last 3 years with that, and I think now is a certified fire starter guy for forests. And I want to congratulate him on that. I'm sure that's not the right term, David, but I apologize for butchering that, but that's you've done a great job with that. So
close enough. Thank you.
And then I really appreciate the work you've done in the partnership with the educational community with Hilton Head Prep, and having the kids and the children and the families involved. Forest Preserve means a lot. And then also a little bit of business. I want to thank the Sea Pines Resorts. They have been making a capital contribution for the last number of years, and we've got a really nice capital budget in place to hopefully make some more improvements here soon in the Fish Island area. And they've also they've been gracious enough to shift over to making an operational contribution starting this year as well. So we're very fortunate with the Forest Preserve to have really great commercial partners with Salty Dog and Sea Pines Resort. And it really, and it shows, because we've got one of the #1 attractions on Hilton Head Island that's not related to the beach. And so I just want to thank the resort, and again thank South Beach Marine and Salty Dog for all they do for the Forest Preserve, and allowing us to manage it and operate it. And really, it is one of the greatest attractions inside of Sea Pines. It doesn't have salt water associated with it. And we get a lot of people that come into this community that they're not interested in going to the beach or the commercial areas. They come for the Forest Preserve. So well done, David.
And I want to add, I'm one of the people that goes to the Forest Preserve on a regular basis. And it always impresses me the number of people that I see there at the time, walking, biking, some fishing, doing whatever. And so I personally experienced that. If any of you have not doing that and taking advantage of it, I urge you to go and to take advantage, because it is a unique attraction enjoyed by a lot of our visitors and a lot of our property owners. Thank you, David. Communications, where's Stephanie? There it is. Go ahead, Stephanie.
Hi, good morning. I also have a presentation, so I'm going to share my screen. All right. So I just have a couple of announcements and going through some mid-year reporting numbers to share with you all. So first up, our Board of Directors election information. October 1st is our election date of record. So we will be sending out our ballots on November 1st to our members that are with us as of the October 1st date. So if you need to update your contact information, please do so before October 1st. You can update your email address, mailing address, and phone number on our website. That form is available at cpinesliving.com/contact. The next important date I want to go over is the October 15th. That's going to be our Meet the Candidates video launch. So please stay tuned to your emails for more information about that. And then ballots must be received by 11:59 p.m. on December 1st. So just some key dates there for you. More information can be found on our elections on our webpage at cpinesliving.com/elections. Our most popular event is back. The community shredding event is going to be held on Monday, September 30th from 10 a.m. to noon at the Sea Pines Community Center parking lot. I just want to remind everyone for safety to stay in your vehicles, follow the cones and the signs, and Sea Pines CSA staff will be on site to assist you. Some more information about that is also found on our website, and any other Sea Pines CSA hosted events can be found there as well. A quick reminder about our board meetings resource page. So this page is found on our homeowners dashboard. If you just go to cpinesliving.com/owners, scroll on down to Sea Pines CSA board governance and click on this link here that says board meetings, agendas, minutes, and resources. That's going to bring you to this page here. On this, you'll have meeting schedule and resources. So you'll be able to find the agenda and the meeting resolutions. Once the video is done with the live stream, it's automatically set here and is the recording that you can view that at a later time if you can't make our live stream at 10 a.m. The meeting recap is also available here. And just to go over that, the timestamped links for the board meeting can be found on the recap. So if you miss a part of the meeting or you're interested in hearing particular reports, you can come in here and click the links and you'll be brought right to that part of the meeting. And then we also will have any documents linked, such as financial statements down here in the approved resolutions. So that's sent out in our community weekly, and it's also posted to this page. We'll also link to the financial report part of the meeting here. And then once the minutes are approved, those will also be shared to this page. I also want to remind everyone that unfortunately we are still in the middle of hurricane season. That's running from June 1st to November 30th. So this year we did set up a storm preparedness page. So if you're new to the area, new to hurricane season, this is available on our website. It's going to have local and state resources as well as tips to prepare your home and evacuation information. So that's available for you all to check out. Speaking of storms, I have some Storm Debbie communication reports for you all. So we did set up a webpage called cpinesliving.com/Debbie. During that week, we saw over 3,400 webpage views, so very active. We also sent out about 9 emails that week. So we start with preparing for the storm, response to the storm, and then recovery. So those updates include operation updates, photos from boots on the ground, and weather updates. So during that week, we saw about a 76% open rate, which is about 7,000 readers. We also had a lot of traffic to our Facebook page that week. We saw over 3,600 visitors, and we gained 98 new followers. I have some mid-year numbers, year to date actually. So our email open rate is sitting at a 73%. So it's about 6,700 readers opening our weekly community updates. The highest open rate year to date is our May 30th email that contained a board meeting recap as well as a video that we did on our debris pickup and mulch delivery services. So that was an 80% open rate, about 7,300 readers. Our top page view on cpinesliving.com is our vehicle decal application page. We saw 31,500 people visit this page here. The most popular Facebook post is our Sea Pines Leisure Trail and Vehicle Reminders, which was posted in July. It reached 13,000 users. We had 13 shares, 104 reactions, and 44 comments on that post. And then our most watched YouTube video is our May board meeting, and we're sitting at 836 views for that. video productions. This year we started incorporating videos into our communication plans just as another way to get out information and updates to the community. So our first one, we started with Russell Fredericks. He did a nice update on the Sea Pines Drive infrastructure improvement project. I also went out with Jared, and we were able to put together a video on the debris recycling program and neighborhood debris site pickups operations. So that was a great one. And then the latest one we did was on Sea Pines Drive. Sandra was my fearless driver. She took me down the phase 4 improvements. So we were able to capture what that looked like, the final completion, and share it with the community. So if you don't live here, you could kind of see what those updates looked like. Those 3 videos had 2,200 views total, and they're posted to our Facebook page and our YouTube channel. Welcome to Sea Pines CSA, a guide for new members, launched in March 2024. So that is a nice overview of Sea Pines CSA's background, services, and important community information. If you're a new property owner and you come visit us here at the Security Admin Building, you will receive a hard copy of this, but it is available digitally on our website. You can scan this QR code now to check it out, or you can visit us later, seapinesliving.com/welcome, and that's available to view, download, and print. For our rental community, we've always had digital and print materials available throughout our website, but this year we've kind of streamlined that process, put them all on one page for you. So those are available to download and print for your rental packages. I have an example here on the left. It's our welcome guide and reminders. It's a front and back sided flyer to post in all rental units or share with your guests. So the front page are community reminders, and then the back you're going to see leisure trail reminders, wildlife safety, as well as the Sea Pines trolley information. All these resources are available on our website at seapinesliving.com/rental. If you're not already, please connect with us. You can find us on Facebook and YouTube. You can also email us at info@csaseapines.com. Our property owner page is also very helpful. A ton of resources there. That's seapinesliving.com/owner. And that's all I have for my presentation. I'll stop there. I'm happy to take any questions y'all may have.
Any questions? Sam, you have anything you want to add?
I just want to tell Stephanie, great job. I appreciate the direction she's taken our communications in. And she's got some additional tremendous ideas that we're going to be putting forth towards the end of the year and into next year. And just really appreciate all her efforts.
You know, Stephanie, I want to comment that, you know, what your numbers show is that our property owners are engaged with us as you give them information. They do go to the sites. They are apparently very comfortable with the use of online equipment, as opposed to some old guys like me who, you know, have a tougher time with it. So you're getting a lot of views, and a lot of people are getting information, and let's keep the information flowing. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
The next item is community infrastructure. Russell, there you are.
Yes, sir. Good morning, Mr. Chair, and thank you. Good morning, everyone. I have a brief presentation to make this morning, and then we'll take some questions at the end, but want to underscore and thank all the cooperation and understanding and patience from the property owners throughout the community as we execute our infrastructure projects. Some of them cause quite the inconvenience for our property owners, but again, thank you. And I'll work through these slides as quickly as I can this morning. Just one moment while I share the screen. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Did you see that, Mr. Chair?
We can hear.
Okay. Again, thank you for this opportunity to review and highlight our 2024 critical infrastructure projects across the community. It's been an incredibly busy year, and we have some significant projects ongoing, South Sea Pines Drive and Lighthouse Lane Dimension 2. In the spring of 2024, we completed the Heritage Woods Leisure Trail between Heritage Court and Old Military Road, resurfacing, realigning the leisure trail, and also installing a new crosswalk to improve pedestrian safety at Old Military Road. Again, this was completed in, this past spring. Our CSA boardwalk repair and replacement, we had 2 boardwalks this past spring. Boardwalk number 16 pictured here. As you can see in the left-hand picture, the accretion of the sand over the top of the boardwalk over time, and then the deterioration of the wood boardwalk. It was at the end of its lifespan, so the new boardwalk in the right-hand photo goes up and over that new sand that's kind of built up on the top of that dune and providing the access for owners to the beach. Boardwalk number 39, which is adjacent to the Sea Pines Beach Club. Again, a similar situation here. You can see in the left-hand photo all the sand that accumulated over time. And again, the boardwalk was in need of repair. We extended the boardwalk out towards the beach, again, to improve pedestrian access for our owners. The Marsh Island Timber Bridge, which is located on Pine Island Drive and Club Course. We resurfaced the bridge and installed new railings. The bridge was previously resurfaced with this timber with wood about 15 plus years ago. So again, in need of repair. So that was again completed this spring by our contractors. South Sea Pines Drive, wanted to just provide a quick update. We completed phase 4 of South Sea Pines from Baynard Cove Road down to Gadwall Road, installing stormwater drainage and roadway realignment, reconstruction, new leisure trail crossings. That's all was completed this past fall into this spring of 24. And now we're have been started what we're referring to as phase 5, which is the final leg of Sea Pines Drive from Gadwall Road to Land's End. Again, just sharing some before and after photos of both the leisure trail and the roadway, which is just a little bit over a mile long from in this particular section of Sea Pines Drive. Again, everything, the roads, the leisure trails were in dire need of upgrades and repair work. Sharing a few photos of the stormwater drainage that was dates back to the late 1950s, early 1960s. Over a mile of that stormwater pipe was replaced and new catch basins were installed along the road to improve that drainage network, both along Sea Pines Drive. And we also upgraded the Scalp Court Road, which was in dire need and had multiple failures in the drainage system over the last few years. Another project to mention, if you've been in Harbortown recently, we broke ground in Lighthouse Lane. This is some of the oldest stormwater pipe and the most deteriorated stormwater pipe in Sea Pines that's been constantly inundated with salt water through the last 60 plus years or more. And as you can see in these photos here in the left-hand photo, the system is full of debris. And you might ask, why is that? And the pipe is so old and so deteriorated that the maintenance crews have not been able to clean it effectively over time. So with the new concrete pipe that we're installing, we'll provide that opportunity for the maintenance crews under Jared's direction to clean these pipes and stormwater on the catch basins on a routine basis moving forward. Another aspect of the project, and just to kind of overview, the Lighthouse Lane, Mizumas, Windjammer, Spinnaker Court, that whole neighborhood has essentially 3 outfalls or 3 ways the drainage system can drain off those roads. And one of the main ones is across the Harbortown golf links. This drainage system was installed probably at the time the Harbortown was under construction, the golf course was being built. But this extends, and you can see in the left-hand photo, extends more than 500 feet across the golf course fairway and discharges in the Calabogie Sound. So these are some of the challenges that we're up against. And in the right-hand photos, you can see how deteriorated the pipe is. It's full of sediment, and these drainage structures are way past their service life. So again, these upgrades are going to pay long-term dividends for the community and the neighborhood, everyone that lives in and uses that Harbortown area and Lighthouse Lane. A couple other slides to go through. We have a planned work for the Otter Road, Fawn Lane area of Sea Pines and Club Course. We're working through our engineering and then planning to go into construction with stormwater drainage and roadway resurfacing in the fall of 2025. Again, you can see this area highlighted here. We've had numerous failures in the roadway and in the drainage system over time. So this is a much necessary project that's again in the planning stages as we speak. Another project that we're working on in the Club Course area is a leisure trail extension that will connect from Governor's Road to the Greenwood Gate. Again, this if you're biking from Governor's Road through that area, as we all know, you're sharing the roadway with vehicles. This leisure trail will bring that pedestrian traffic off the Club Course Drive and up to the Greenwood Gate in a much safer manner. We'll be installing some stamped crosswalks as well to afford residents the opportunity to again go back and forth inside and outside the Greenwood Gate in a much more effective manner moving forward. Plantation Drive Leisure Trail is another project that's planned for this fall to break ground. From Lighthouse Road to the Baynard Ruins, the leisure trail is in much need of upgrades and repair work. It's about 3/4 miles long. We will be stamping all the crosswalks and at the cross streets all the way up and down Plantation Drive and aligning the leisure trail where possible and widening where possible. So again, this is something that is planned for this fall as part of our infrastructure work. And that's all the slides I have this morning, Mr. Chair, and glad to take any questions that anyone may have.
Any board has questions? Sam, you have comments you want to add?
I'll let the board ask the question.
Oh, we have questions. I didn't see any hands. Larry and Cliff and Steve. Okay, Larry, start.
Yeah, I just wanted Russell to confirm what I think many people know. When we talk about the value of the critical infrastructure funds that have been created through the referendum, Russell, you may be able to tell us along South and North Sea Pines Drive, where we used to have enormous problems. Did we have any major problems during Debbie's rainfall?
Russell, before you answer that question, note that Jared is going to address that, I believe.
Then I'll wait. I'll hold my questions to Jared. That's fine.
We're going to come back to that one, Larry.
That's fine. I'll wait till then.
I will say Russell did a fantastic job. We'll just leave it there.
Okay.
Cliff?
Mine isn't a question. It's more of just an accolade. I wanted to thank Russell for his work here. I mean, as we know that this subsurface work is not only the toughest type of construction because he basically receives a new surprise, every day, multiple times a day. But with just the visual improvements of the landscaping that's gone in addition to the functionality, not only is it just an enhancement to the quality of our product, but it also is creating some safety improvements with the traffic calming, effects that this landscaping has. So, I mean, I'm speaking for all of us. I think road work is probably our least favorite type of construction to deal with as the public. But I truly believe that Russell just has a sincere thoughtfulness about how he's impacting the communities and has been tremendously flexible while somehow still getting the job done. So I just want to thank you for that, Russell, for that attitude.
Thank you, Cliff. Really appreciate those comments.
Steve?
Mine was just an accolade as well. These are very important projects for the community, and I'm glad we're tackling them. I appreciate, Russell, the way they've been planned and organized and the progress that have been made.
Thank you very much, Steve.
I do want to add my appreciation to Russell and what he's doing. Just sort of the here and the now, if you have an opportunity, go down to Sea Pines, into South Sea Pines Drive and take a look at what's getting started. when that project is done in the March and April, not just the underground improvements, but the above ground improvements that are going to improve the aesthetics, the safety, and the functionality of the whole intersection and feel of the South Beach area for pedestrians, bicyclists, and motorists is going to be tremendous. And we're really excited about not just the underground work, but the above ground work that's going to occur there. And then, but in addition to that, just this is the first time in CSAs in the last 4 years, we're going to have really two major projects going on at one time. So the scale of what we're doing and the scope of what we're doing is expanding. And we've been focused on South Sea Pines Drive for the last 3 years, but we're bringing other things to bear and getting them started, both with Russell and with Jared. So 2025 and 2026, 2027, moving on, they're going to be very, very busy years for us. And there'll be a lot of work on around the entire community versus just in specific areas. So it's going to be a busy time, an exciting time, and appreciate all the work that Russell has done thus far and all he's got to do. So he took a couple of weeks off over the summer when things slowed down, but no time off until the spring, Russell.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
I just want to add, I had a tour of our drainage system and lagoon connections, and I never realized until I did that from Caligny, all water there drains through Sea Pines. You go behind Publix and there's a lake there. All of the water from that end drains through Sea Pines. So Sea Pines handles a tremendous amount of drainage, and it's part of the reason our lagoon system and all our drains are even more importantly, because we're getting water not from just what rains on us, but rains outside of us that comes through. So it's a very interesting, it was a very interesting concept to me. I never thought about it that way. So for the public to understand that we're handling a tremendous volume of water when there's some rain from outside. One of the comments you mentioned safety, Sam, on the bike paths and roadways, increasing it. During construction down on South Sea Pines Drive, I had several residents contact me that the bike paths were too close to the road and they were concerned that the biker may wander off and slope down, et cetera, while it was under construction. In the last 2, maybe 3 weeks, those same people have came to me and said that the landscaping you've done and the shaping of along there to separate the bike path from the road does exactly what they would hope and increases safety. So it's coming from people who had a viewpoint that way and who see what's been done. So I just want to add a personal note to the work that's being done. We are going above the ground as well as dealing with under the ground. We need to have mechanically and our utility systems work, but we need to have the visual complement that, because that's what people see, and they need to see the best as long as we're putting the best in the ground. Any other comments before I ramble on? Okay, we'll go to the next thing then. Community maintenance. Jared, I hope I didn't take any of your steam out of your presentation.
Oh, no, you would never do that. You'd never do that. I do have this presentation, so let me share my screen here real quick.
Jared, can you speak up just a little bit? We're having a hard time hearing.
Yeah, I'll move a little bit closer. Okay, can everyone see the screen okay?
Yes.
All right. So Mr. Ellis, thank you for touching on the stormwater system a little bit. Some folks may not know what all goes into it, so I'm just going to kind of give a high-level update as to what our stormwater system consists of. So it's a series of interconnected retention ponds, ultimately discharging into tidal creeks and marshes through various outfalls throughout the community. The CSA stormwater drainage conveyance system consists of all forms of conveyance. We've all heard these terms: ditches, the Orangeburg pipe, which is a lot of what Russell's replaced, corrugated metal pipe, plastic pipe, concrete pipe, swales, ponds, control structures, and even a stormwater pumping station, often referred to as Lawton Canal Pumping Station. A couple of quick facts, stats. In total, there's about 3,000 inlets in the community, 41 control structures, 36 miles of stormwater pipe, approximately 6 miles of ditches, and over 149 lagoons that total about 140 acres of surface area. And overall, the primary storm drainage system, when it was designed 40, 50 years ago, it was designed for and sized for a 25-year, 24-hour storm, which at that time was for 8 inches of rainfall in 24 hours. This is an updated graph. They've changed numbers slightly here. But what we're designed for is that 24-hour, 8.39 rainfall. So, I kind of dove into this a little bit more after Debbie. I've always heard the term, what is a 25-year rainstorm? What is a 50-year storm? So what it is, it's essentially the probability of receiving the rain within a 24-hour period. So the probability of receiving 8 inches of rain in a 24-hour period is 1 in 25 years. So you can imagine one rainfall, or basically one day in 25 years, that's the probability of receiving that. So I wanted to touch on Debbie a little bit. As y'all know, our staff was out. They were working extremely hard, and personally, I feel like they did a great job, and I'm proud to have these folks on staff. But some of the highest reported 24-hour rainfalls we had on Hilton Head was 9.75 inches. Now, you may see some numbers, I don't want to say all over the place, but kind of fluctuate. A rain weather system's kind of hard to get an accurate number on. I mean, all it takes is a little piece of debris to get in there, or a pine needle, or some gauges get full and the water overflows the top. But based on our research, this is what we felt was probably one of the more accurate levels that we received. So looking at this graph, in a 24-hour period, receiving right around 10 inches of rain would put us somewhere around a 50-ish year storm. So as I mentioned, we're really designed for a 25-year storm, and we were somewhere around a 50-year storm. So, you may have the question, how are we getting this water out of sea pines? I know it's easier said than done. I wish we could just open the control valves and the water went out. But our biggest tool during a rainstorm that we can rely on for pumping water out is the Lawton Canal pump station. And it's underground, so a lot of people have the question is, what is it? So I'll go into that a little bit further down as to what it actually is, but it's used as a floodplain mitigation tool in advance of a large rain event. And just the Lawton Canal pump station alone is responsible for a 2,000-acre watershed. And as Mr. Ellis mentioned, a lot of the stormwater from Coligny and North and South Forest Beach comes through that watershed, and it actually discharges at the Lawton Canal pump station. So by pumping lagoon levels down, CSA creates additional storage volumes to accommodate excess stormwater, and strategically controlling the slide gates, weir gates, boards, and pumps, and with appropriate planning, CSA is able to draw down the lagoon elevations in preparation for a storm event. And since the system outfalls into a tidally controlled creek, special care is taken when operating the discharge end combination gate to prevent water from entering back into the system when trying to reduce lagoon levels. I guess it's kind of hard to understand that, but they have flap gates on them. So hopefully you guys can see me a little bit. As the pumps go, they're pushing the gates up and the water is coming out. And then when the tide turns, if the pumps are turned off, the tide pushes the flaps shut, so the water is not pushing back into the system. But these pumps actually have enough power to kind of, even if the tide's coming up, to partially lift them up and push water out as well. So the existing pumps that we have at the Lawton Canal pump station, there are 3 submersible pumps capable of pumping 24,000 gallons per minute, each at 9 feet of total dynamic head. I kind of made a joke about this, I guess, formula down here. That's how they calculate what total dynamic head is. That's way too smart for me, so I'm just going to take their word for it that we have 9 feet of total dynamic head. That's what the engineers engineered the system for. So this is an example of what a lower lagoon looks like. This is actually right in front of the farm on Greenwood Drive. I'm sure many of y'all saw this in preparation for Debbie. And, again, it doesn't look like much, but you can imagine that lagoon's probably 4 or 5 feet deep, maybe 6 foot before it would crest over the side. So you can just imagine the amount of gallons of water that we can hold in there if needed for stormwater runoff. Some quick, I guess, stats on some of the water that was pumped out. So as you can see, these are the 4 pump stations that the town has on Hilton Head, or that are on Hilton Head. The top one is the Lawton Pump Station, and as you can see, we pumped, believe it or not, almost 235 million gallons of water in that week period. And looking at all the 4 pump stations, Lawton Canal pumped approximately 53% of the total volume reported by the town. So just that one pump station pumped over half of what the entire town or island physically pumped out during the storm. And to put in perspective, pump stations account for about almost 4,900 acres of watershed, and the rest of the watershed is gravity flowed. So again, we ask another question: how do we keep this amount of water flowing? And the great answer is maintenance. So as you see these gentlemen here, y'all may have seen this picture in the communication Stephanie sent out. But every 2 hours while the storm was going on, we had staff rotating and checking the screen grates that are in front of these pumps. Believe it or not, as the water is discharging and getting pumped through the system, there's reeds and pine straw and limbs and things like that that are floating in the water, and these screens actually catch them before they could go into the pumps. It's kind of funny. This picture was taken, I think it was about 2 or 2:30 in the morning, something like that, and it kind of looks like it's an easy process, but those rigs that these gentlemen are using are actually like 14 feet long, and I swear they're probably 60 or 70 pounds. If they're not, it's just because I was completely exhausted, but they were just heavy as could be. And then, you're pulling up 30, 40, 50 pounds of vegetation on there as well. So that's why we had multiple staff and crew that were able to do this, so we can kind of keep the guys rotating out so no one got exhausted. I did also want to mention right before Debbie came, we worked with the town of Hilton Head. We actually removed these screens from the chambers and did a visual inspection, and they also cleaned off any marine growth that may have been growing on them. Sometimes you get mussels or things like that you can't really see on the surface. So they brought a crane in and pulled them out, and we had them cleaned up just to make sure we can get enough or the water through that is designed to pass through. So on top of the Lawton Canal pumps, we placed 6 high-volume portable dewatering pumps in strategic locations. These pumps moved water out of our stormwater system in addition to what was moving out of the system at low tide. So since our system is gravity fed, obviously other than the Lawton pump station, these pumps moved water much faster than gravity alone, and they would give us the ability to continue to pump water out of the system as the tides were coming in. So a lot of these discharge locations, there's like the gate that I was mentioning, we could put the suction hose on our side of the gate and then the discharge hose on the other side of the gate. So even if the gate was closed, we were still pulling water over the top and pushing it onto the other side of it. A great example of that is down on the corner of like South Beach Lane and South Sea Pines Drive. And I'm sure a lot of you have seen the pumps that were set up there, and you kind of see the water going over the top, discharging into the marsh there. Here's another example. I'm just going to show you all kind of a couple pictures of how we had them set up and how we were able to use them. This was down on Stony Creek. So again, the water levels here it was pushing in rather fast with the tide. So we actually set up 2 pumps here to get as much water out as we could. This is one of our outfalls that's up in the club course area. Again, same thing. There's a lot of water upstream from this. So we set up 2 pumps to push it out and push it up over the discharge or over the outfall. So in addition to the larger portable pumps, we were also able to use 7 smaller pumps, which were placed at, I don't want to say less critical outfalls, but outfalls that didn't have as much water behind them. They were also used in areas where we had localized flooding to move water from the roadways. So again, I've personally never experienced this much rain ever in my life anywhere. So, even in 2, 3, or 4 inch rain, some of these areas were draining just fine. But when you get this much rain, that's when you kind of realize some of the issues that you have. So this is an example of a catch basin in the Lawton Woods area where the road wasn't necessarily flooding, but we had a little localized flooding, and we were able to put the suction hose into a catch basin and actually discharge out to one of the retention ponds just to move the water a little bit faster than it would move on its own. Again, this is another example of that same situation. You can see on the right where we have some cones up around a catch basin. We were able to put that discharge hose in there, or the suction hose in there, and then run a discharge hose out to the sound. This also gives us the chance to respond quickly to areas that are seeing excessive flooding. You know, in the past, we'd have to wait for the tide to turn, for the water to go down, and then this water to come out, but we're able to make headway a little bit by pumping it. So also, believe it or not, it was estimated that these smaller pumps pumped an additional 49 million gallons based on how long we ran them and the gallons per minute they're able to pump. So then that leaves us with the question, how much water was pumped from sea pines? So we estimate it was 284 million gallons of water that was pumped in that week during Debbie. Obviously, Lawton Pump Station being the big one with almost 235 million. And then the high volume pumps, the 6 of them was another almost 44 million. And then the smaller portable pumps was around 5.5 million gallons of water. So I just want to kind of throw some of the stats out there to let y'all see what we were doing and all the hard work that our guys have been doing and what it's doing for the community here. Another thing that we did during Debbie is we had the staff just staying proactive. So we've had enough training and enough of these scenarios where the guys that we have now have been with us long enough that they're kind of getting the gist of it. They're getting out there, they're getting a plan. So what we did is we kind of split them up into 2 crews. So we had 24-hour coverage. So we would let half the staff go and rest up at night for 4 or 5, 6 hours. And then the other half would be out riding the community, checking things, looking for standing water, limbs, trees, obstructions, anything that may come up. And thankfully we did, because we were just getting so much rain that these guys were out there were actually sets of eyes for us. One of the biggest things that I wanted to point out to y'all is, and I can't tell you how happy I am that Russell's doing the stormwater work down in Harbortown right now. So it was, I say maybe 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, where staff was out doing a ride around. They went down the Harbortown area and they noticed a lot of the roads had a lot of water on them. So naturally they're going cleaning off the top of the catch basin, but there's no debris on them. So we're like, okay, so the water's not going down while the tide's pushing up. So we had to make the scary call. I'm calling Mr. Bennett at 10 o'clock at night saying, sir, we have to run an excavator across the 18th fairway of Harbortown. I can only imagine the shock on his face. So obviously, thankfully, as always, Sam supports our decisions and he knows that we need to do what we need to do. And he says, go ahead and be as careful as you can. So we took some plywood out there and we ran the machine across there. And so when the tide's been, well, let me back up a little bit. I know Russell touched on it. There's a bubbler system out there. So a lot of Genoa, Spinnaker, Lighthouse Lane, Mizzenmast, some of those areas discharge through basically under the 18th fairway out to the sound there. But with the tides coming in and out 2-3 times a day for however many years, it's been bringing vegetation into this bubbler. And the way that works is it's basically a box and water kind of fills up towards the top of the box and then it spills over. So some people would call it a spillway. But anyways, water wasn't able to get out of it due to the sediment and vegetation that was built up in it from the tides pushing everything in. So as you can see on the left is kind of right before the guys started digging. Then the photo on the right is the first scoop they pulled out of there. And it's a little hard to tell in this photo, but you can see there's a couple different colors in the water. And as soon as the guys pulled that vegetation out, I mean, you could just see the water pouring out of this bubbler. And the different color was indication that it was stormwater runoff that was just had all the headway behind it pushing right out through here. So I did a few before and after pictures, and I just want you all to know these pictures are only taken 40 minutes apart. So the first pictures is when we left to go get the machine, and this is where the water was standing, and it was continuing to rise at this point. And then the photo on the right was 40 minutes after the guys dug the areas out, just to show you how quickly it did drain out. So this is Lighthouse Lane looking up towards Spinnaker. This is actually a similar area, but back a little bit further. And then this, the street up on the right here is mizzen mast. So again, you could see looking up the road, I mean, basically almost from the grass part of the golf course up to the clubhouse was getting underwater and it had nowhere to go. So again, I just wanted to kind of let you guys see that and see what's going on and what we're dealing with and how the improvements Russell is doing are going to help change these things. And I'll be honest with you, I don't want to have to call Mr. Bennett and tell him I'm going across the fairway again. So another area where I'm proactive patrol, this is kind of a smaller deal. It was a little bit of an open space, but it was over by lot 8. There was actually a pipe end that was, I don't know if someone ran over it at some point, but it was crushed underneath here and water wasn't able to get into the pipe to drain. So we had to take the machine over there, kind of pull the end of it up, peel it back up so water was able to get through. This was an area on Woodbine where there was a catch basin that had an obstruction actually inside of it. And I'm sure many of you all know Doug Cook on the left. I kind of joke with him, but he's our stormwater guru. I mean, you can see these guys are in knee-deep water and he can walk over there and the first poke with a rake, he finds the catch basin every single time. So there's 3,000 of them and he knows right where they're at. But anyways, we had to go over there and actually lift the grate off the catch basin and pull the obstruction out. These were a few pictures of some tree issues we had. Thankfully, we didn't have a whole lot. I think there was 4 or 5 reports of trees throughout the entire time, which really isn't bad given how many trees that are estimated in sea pines. The photo on the left, there was one across a beach walk. The photo in the middle was a tree that just happened to kind of lean over a little bit. And then a photo on the right wasn't actually anything wrong with the tree. It just had a lot of weight on it from the water. So we just trimmed those branches up a little bit so cars could get through. Let's see. Okay, so that was kind of what I want to touch on with Debbie, and I'm sure I'll have some questions after. I'll be happy to answer. But I did want to go over a few of our routine maintenance that we go through. I know it's kind of hard to tell y'all, you see us out there, you see us doing things, but a lot of it's cyclical. So I just want to put a couple stats out here to let y'all know. Our debris pickup, they've picked up approximately 9,500 pickups so far this year. And there's about 250 to 300 of them throughout the community. And, every week these guys are just on their same weekly cycle picking these up. Throughout the season, we did roughly 500 aquatic vegetation applications this year. So when you see Mason out spraying the ponds, a lot of his is proactive. We do get some work orders for him, but he's on a pretty good routine where he's out spraying things proactively. Our facilities department has done about 760 inspections this year. Our debris recycling program has processed approximately 9,500 cubic yards of debris this year. That's the debris that we get in from the debris pickup, then it's processed into the mulch. And then our tree care program, we've done about 3,700 man hours of tree work this year. And we're still going, we have a lot more to do, so. A quick update on some of our year-to-date maintenance work orders. We've received 96 tree work orders, 26 work orders for asphalt repair, 69 work orders for grounds or landscaping, 158 facilities work orders, 134 drainage work orders, 344 for debris and mulch, and our sign shop, the clear winner here, has had around 414. Before I move on to that, I'm sorry, I did want to mention one more thing about Debbie. Larry, you were kind of asking about the work Russell's done. So within that first 24 hours when we received the most substantial rainfall, we had 21 calls for service, and 4 or 5 of those were actually like kind of duplicates, like people calling about the same thing but from different households. So we had around 18 calls of service, and I think only 2 of them were on the areas of North Sea Pines Drive. And I'll say just on a normal rainfall 3 or 4 years ago, I'm not exaggerating, we would have received 30 or 40 calls on the T streets or North Sea Pines Drive areas on a 2 or 3 inch rain. So if we can handle 10 inches of rain and get 2, 3, 4 calls, I am more than happy, and my staff's happy, so they're not spending all their time over there. But our return on investment that we put in the ground there is huge. From my perspective, it gives us a chance to be more proactive instead of staying in the same few areas and being reactive and trying to get those areas taken care of. So I did want to kind of throw that out there, let y'all know how many calls of service we did receive from that. Looking forward a little bit, and we're going to have more details on this as time progresses. But in the year 2025, we're going to be looking into doing a little bit more mechanical dredging. As you see this photo here on the right-hand side, this is a lagoon that we did earlier this year on like North Sea Pines Drive and Greenwood Lane area. It was actually almost completely filled in with sediment. And after Debbie, I'm extremely glad that we did this because we were able to get a lot of water out from the Live Oak area and everything up that way. So just to touch on what dredging is, I know a lot of us have heard the terms, but just give you a quick rundown. So dredging is a method of removing sludge, sediment, and other materials from a lagoon. And why is it done? So lagoon dredging is used to remove the sediment buildup to restore a lagoon's original function and to prevent excess muck and debris in the lagoon. And the result of it is increased operating capacity to move stormwater out of our system and increased volume to retain stormwater as needed. So what does that mean? Yes, we lower lagoons. So we want to be able to have the original function of getting the water out of the community. But once the water is out, we're going to keep those lagoons there, and they're going to hold any water that's coming in from a stormwater runoff. So I guess, we've all seen the lowered lagoons. Sometimes there's a little bit of sand or sediment in front of a pipe. We're looking into areas that we're going to be starting to remove that to make sure we can get water out of here effectively. In 2025, there's going to be some select lagoons in the Harbortown area that we're looking at. And there's going to be a few more throughout the community, but there's a lot in that area that we need to get some sediment out of so we can have that capacity. And we're going to be doing this work probably late spring, early summer of 2025. And Stephanie's definitely going to send out communications. We'll make sure everyone's aware of the work that we're doing. Just wanted to kind of put in your ear and let you know what's coming down the pipeline. This is that same pond. This is a great before and after picture. A little hard to tell, but you can see there's a pipe over in this end of the pond here, and naturally water would come through the middle of the pond, but with all the sediment built up, it's trying to navigate around, and believe it or not, that really slows the process down a lot more than you'd think it would. But just to give you all an idea of a before and after picture of what a lagoon would look like after we're kind of getting some of the muck and sediment out of it. I did want to touch quickly on our community standards. So far, we've had around 2,200 violations. Some of the highest categories, landscape related, which is around 30%. That covers ground cover, mowing, weeding, things like that. Around 15% are maintenance related, which could be roof debris, house maintenance, power washing. Approximately 20% are just we consider unsightly, which could be like items left in view or towels on banisters, things like that. Around 10% is rubbish and debris, which is basically trash cans in view, to make it simple. So I know I dropped a lot of information on y'all, but it all boils down to one thing, which is our greatest asset we have as an organization. It's our employees. The skills, knowledge, and dedication that these guys have, I personally just feel it can't be replaced. After going through Debbie, which was record-breaking storm, just the creativity, problem solving, and commitment to sea pines that these folks have is what allows us to build a strong community. So not only are these employees seeing how their work affects outcomes of the community, they're also developing skills that are personally fulfilling, and they're seeing their value as employees with CSA. So I did want to take a moment on behalf of the staff and myself just to thank the board and the community for their support and the belief they have in the employees. And these guys genuinely mean that. We've had a lot of bonding experiences. Going through storms like this together, you're really seeing these people develop and become who they are as a person, professionally and personally. And I did want to thank the board and the community for giving us the opportunity to do that and for supporting us through it. That is all I have for questions, or I'm sorry, for presentation. I'm happy to take any questions y'all may have.
Thank you, Jared. You want to add anything
Just a couple of things before questions. I appreciate Jared finishing with the employees because they are the first thing, and I want to thank Jared and those employees as well. without those men and women, any success we had would not have happened over Debbie. And they were ready and willing to come out and work during that storm, and I greatly appreciate it. But I also want to thank the board and the community, because what y'all allowed us to do over the course of the last 2.5, 3 years is provide the resources, the tools, and the wages we need to retain and attract good employees to do the things that need to be done. And so what we're seeing is the efforts that the board has made, the community has made to put the infrastructure in the ground and retain the employees to run the community pay off. I mean, it couldn't have gone any better than it did during Debbie. And so all those two things have intersected there. I just want to thank the board for allowing us as an organization, for me to work with the team to do that, and thank the employees for being willing to do that, and thank the community for supporting us in doing that. And it's working, it's paying off. So that's a great thing for me as president of the organization, to be able to sit here and tell the community and tell the board. And a couple others I want to thank the town of Hilton Head Island. You know, we've really been able to develop a positive relationship with the town as it relates to stormwater over the last 3 years. And the town has been very supportive of us. Thank Mark Orlando and his team for the work they put in the Lawton Canal pump station. That station ran flawlessly during Debbie, and that wouldn't have happened just 3 years ago. And it really paid dividends for us. And his team continues to support us, and we appreciate the town. And then I also want to thank Steve Burble, because he is the guy I had to call after Jared called me to tell him that we were fixing to take an excavator across the 18th fairway. And after I explained to him again what we're going to do, his response was, "Do what you need to do. Please be careful." and we did. And Jared and his guys did a great job. The resort didn't hesitate during the storm to let us do what we needed to do. And so it got done. And so, Jared, thank you for what you guys did during Debbie. Thanks for managing this community the way you did. And back to Russell and the improvements. Russell, thank you for what you've been doing. It's all coming together, folks. And that's what we wanted and what we said it would. And thanks to the community for allowing us to make the investment so that we can deal with these kind of things. Now, David.
Well, I want to echo that, because, you know, our property owners have approved assessments and have ponied up the money to be able to do this. I'm happy that you can see in what's been presented today that your money is accomplishing good. It's been used very well, and that this is a very important thing to our community, to be able to take care of our infrastructure, our drainage, our maintenance, among other things. So we've been very hard at work at that, and been making good use and economical use of the funds that you're providing, and we will continue to do so. But I thank you for being able, you know, for contributing and making this possible, because it's for all of us. Any comments or questions from the board? Do we have, Ray?
Yes, Jared, what do you do with all that material that you dredge out of the lagoons?
So we actually basically let it dry out, and then we store it in our pit area, and we'll use it on like roadsides where we have dips, or in the debris pickup location, we'll use it to fill those areas back up.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions, comments? Well, Jared, Russell, thank y'all.
Thank you.
We'll move on to finance and administration. Victoria.
Well, my presentation is completely wimpy compared to what we have just seen. I don't have any fancy slides. I don't have any pictures to show, so I'm going to be really brief. So what we've been working on, we're working with the insurance agents to renew our insurance. As you all, I'm sure you're aware, is a significant part of our administration budget. We did change our renewal date a couple years ago from a calendar year to November 1st renewal, and that gave our brokers a chance to get in front of these carriers. And so it wasn't such a big scramble in, the last 2 weeks in December to get these policies renewed, that we really have more time to get in front of the carriers and really be able to explain who we are and what we do. And we're also beginning work on the 2025 budget. Obviously, all the employees are concerned with cost of living, so we're keeping a big eye on that. And I wanted to just give you a brief update on our collections. We are, for 2024 assessments, we're 99% collected. So thank you to everyone who has remitted your assessment on time. A little disappointing for the rental registration. For the first 3 months, last year, we were at 79% collected, and this year we're at 60. So we did send us additional statements out last week, so we just appreciate everybody remitting those payments. So you'll be hearing a little more about financial reports from Leanne later on in the meeting. So thank you very much.
And the only thing I add is Victoria will have a busy presentation during November.
I promise I'll make up for it.
A number of things.
Particularly with the budget and
I
stuff.
think you have a question for Tom Sharp.
Tom?
Sorry. I had a question, Victoria, you sent out or recently informed us that concerning the short-term permits and the payment for getting those. Do we have an outstanding folks that haven't paid for 2024 short-term rental permits? If I
Yes,
understood
that's
that.
what I was just referring to about the collection rate for the rental registration program. Yes.
Okay.
And I don't
Why-
have any speculation as to why that is.
Well, why do we allow that to drag so long? Seems the season's over, if you will, and we're still trying to collect permit money. Doesn't seem right somehow.
Well, at the end of the day, Tom, let's be honest, we're going to get paid. I mean, whether we have to put a lien on your house or you won't be able to sell your property without making us whole. So we do have some repercussions here. So we do, it's not just, oh, we're losing money. It's just a matter of late payments.
And in
Well,
addition to that, let me say this, Tom, our goal is always to try and get compliance for a fee or an assessment or things of those nature before we go down any other routes. And so we'll go through the process, and I think our collection rate will go up dramatically, and then we'll make a determination with the board what the next steps need to be for those that haven't paid.
Okay, one more
Victoria,
question.
one thing, Tom, you might want to know is I think
Okay.
the rental registration fees were only billed in May. They weren't billed in January.
That's
Okay.
correct. That's correct.
Right, and we heard in the finance committee that there's only a small handful of people or homeowners who did not pay in 2023 and have not paid in 2024. So it's not like we have a lot of repeat offenders.
Well, okay, I kind of understand that all, but it seems if we're authorizing a permit for 2024, it would seem like we do that earlier in the year, and it appears we don't really have any way to have compliance, that people will go ahead and rent their properties even without a permit. Is that correct?
Well, it used to be up until 2 years ago that you were not required to register with our rental program. And then beginning in 2023, it is required. So we
Right.
do have staff that does take the time to do an internet search. And they search for rental properties that are advertised and to check to see that they are listed on our rental registration fee. As well as, I think you probably remember, I did a presentation a couple months ago about the reconciliation of our rental registration program and those of the town of Hilton Head, and that they were very comparable.
Okay,
And to be clear, this is a registration fee. It's not a permit. Unlike, it isn't something that says you can't rent without it. You're paying us. And again,
Right.
I assume at some point, if they aren't paying, we will take steps to limit their ability to get passes and things like that. which
Right, I
also
mean,
makes
that's
it
a very good recourse that we have, Larry. Thank you for pointing that out, that, we can suspend their ability to call in a rental pass.
okay,
That usually is very effective.
And just remember this, we're early in the program from a life cycle of the program. this is sort of the next step for us as a team, to bring back recommendations to the board on what those next steps are. So we'll be looking to do that after this last registration goes out and see where we are. We'll make some recommendations to this group, what next steps need to be for those who aren't compliant.
And you may
Thank you.
have those at the next board meeting, depending on what the data shows.
Thank you.
I hope to report good news.
Any further questions of Victoria? Comment? Okay, we'll go to Joe Camp for safety, security, and transportation. There he is.
There I am. Good morning, everyone. Good to see you all again. What I want to start off with was a little comment about staffing. I think that's an important thing that was to the board, also to myself. You know, when I first arrived here a little over a year ago, the board had just, I think, approved us about another 6 positions. And after assessing the department for the past year, and those positions are absolutely critical for us. I don't see how they did some of the things that they did prior to that. You'll be happy to know that that was one of the things. My first priority was to get those positions filled with quality personnel, and in law enforcement and in security. That's a difficult task these days, but you'll be happy to know that those positions have been filled. We're fully staffed, and the other thing is we're doing a terrific job of retaining those people. So we start to get security officers that instead of a revolving door, learning a little and leaving, now we're starting to keep people, which makes them better officers, makes them understand things a little bit better. And that's very valuable to Sea Pines from a security standpoint. There's some differences that does make in investing in that. And, you know, there's some things we're able to do now. Little faster response times for our calls for service. We give that allows us more, how do I say, more thorough property checks. That's a big part of what we do here in security, but it allows us to really be thorough with that, take our time, do a good job with it. It's freed us up because some of the resort, you know, the foot patrols is a big thing down in Harbortown. That's allowed us to free up officers to do that. And also from a traffic enforcement, a lot of the complaints I get, and I'll get to that in a minute in one of the slides, but a lot of the complaints I get are speeding through trucks in certain areas. And when you have the personnel now that we have, it allows me to allocate personnel to deal with those situations while everyone else is continuing to, you know, do the things that we need to do to provide security for Sea Pines residents and visitors. And something else when it comes to those positions, what it does, it's not a statistic, but it's kind of an intangible. What it does is increases morale. Instead of officers being spread so thin, trying to go from call to call to call, cover their areas. Gate officers are short. They're having to go up there and fill those positions and pull them off the road to do that. The morale helps. That helps the morale with the officers. They feel like they can do their jobs. They're not stretched quite as thin. And I think that goes into why we've had such success with retention. When I first got here, just prior to getting here, it's kind of a revolving door. But I'm really happy to report to you all that we're keeping employees. The turnover rate is extremely low. And that is that's a big thing. And it's not just of who we're hiring, but the CSA, when I go into interviews with these officers, potential officers, you know, we really brag on what benefits they have here, the pay that they get, how we work with them, medical benefits and other things after they're here a certain period of time. So, and it's a great place to work. And we try to push the fact that not many people get to spend all day in Sea Pines driving around and doing their job here. So those things have been successful, and I'm happy to report that to you all. And I certainly appreciate what the board did prior to my arrival in getting those. And I'm just happy that we've kind of filled that. And that's been a lot of help. We can start, Steve, we start going to some of these slides I want to get into, just to show you all some things. First thing I like to show you is these are the vehicles that enter Sea Pines. You know, Sam tasked me with getting a really accurate vehicle count of how many vehicles, because there's other things going on with the task force, with the traffic circle and some others. It's really important for us to show how many vehicles are entering Sea Pines. I mean, and when I say vehicles, this is every single vehicle that enters, whether it's Greenwood Gate or whichever lane, Ocean Gate, whichever lane. This has nothing to do with passes. This is just pure traffic. And if you look at those numbers, this is since February. We enacted, with the help of Stephen and myself, worked very hard to get this accurate counting system, and it's extremely accurate, does a great job. And I'll let you go over and just kind of digest some of those numbers and where we are. And they're all very consistent with the months. And again, this is February through August this year. You can see, you know, what we have where, and you know, that I totaled those up. You know, that's 2.5 million vehicles that entered Sea Pines so far this year since February. So that's just some numbers showing that. And I guess we can move on. And that shows you how busy our gate officers are. You get a lot of that in, and they're very busy. So the next thing is, this is just our security incidents. We've had a total of 3,690 total calls for service year to date. That's this year. Those are calls that actually come into dispatch and they dispatch out. These aren't officer generated type calls. So our dispatch is extremely busy, but again, filling dispatch also along with the gates and the armed patrol officers has made a big difference in this here. I just kind of put in what our top 6 calls for service are, which covers about 50% of all our calls. And I'll let you look down through those 6. Those are definitely the bulk of what we see for all our calls for service. Okay. We can move on. Last year, or not last year, but the last time I met with you all, I said that since I had so many complaints and just for safety reasons, because we have when I got here and I realized how many bicycles and walkers and children and, you know, things that we have, traffic enforcement, I think, was very important. And with the additional officers I've been able to dedicate some time to that. And I kind of promised a little more of an aggressive traffic enforcement here for Sea Pines for safety reasons. And as you look at these numbers, citations are basically tickets from 23 and 24 on the left. You've seen we've got a 50% increase this year since I've been here under how many tickets we've written. And when you go onto the right side, there are warnings that we issue for people. At the same time, those have increased 35%. Those are pretty big numbers. Those are pretty big increases. And I think that, again, having the extra additional personnel and making that a priority, most of those are going to be speeding and a lot of citations or warnings for these through trucks that we have problems with. That's going to be the primary bulk of what those numbers are. But the staff that I have has done a terrific job responding to that. I've made it a priority, and they've done a terrific job increasing those numbers this year. Okay, let's get into some of I brought some numbers for the gate passes issued. 23 to 24, January through August. As you can look, and again, I'll let you look over some of these numbers so you can, before I just ramble on with them. The total numbers there on each side from 23 to 24, that's just the total number of gate passes issued. It was down a little bit from a little over 300,000 to about 287. But that's not unusual based on, I think, some of what we've seen with the decreases across the board, this year that you've all have kind of mentioned. It's not very much. I think it's about, 4%. The next number over there, the blue block, is those are our $9 daily visitor passes, which is obviously, as you can tell, the huge bulk of the passes that are issued. Again, that number is almost represented 4% decrease in those, but not much. It's not much difference. And the last bar with the bright blue, the turquoise, that's our short-term passes that we issue. Now, these are just the ones at the gates. And as you can look, even though everything else was down a little, we've had about a 7% increase in the short-term passes that were issued at the gates. So they're up some, a little bit, but I put it in this particular graph so you could kind of look to see some of our more important things that I think the board might be interested in the total versus the daily $9 versus the short-term weekly that we issue out. Okay, we can go on to the next. I think we're going to get into the trolley ridership now. And David does a great job, our trolley manager, of getting me this information. Again, this is for 2024 numbers, the March through August, which is our season for the trolleys. You can look, I just did a breakdown so you can see what routes are the busiest. The blue route, obviously, green route, yellow route, and the red routes in this pie chart. When you look up to the kind of the 11 o'clock position, left position, the H, those are what they run during Heritage. So we've got the Heritage blue, the Heritage red, the white, which is just for Heritage. That's kind of just the loop that runs back and forth between Harbortown and Sea Pines Center. But it goes to show, now you will notice there's not a green, an additional green in the trolley. That's kind of a glitch that came out of the system I talked with David about. But those numbers are actually included in the green route. So as you can see, about 12% of what we do with the trolleys is during Heritage Week. That's just a 1 week period. That's a lot. So I thought those numbers were kind of interesting to see how much we did. If you look up the total numbers, about 64,000 was our ridership in 2024. That was down. I looked, that was about 10% down from last year. Again, not a surprise, but they're also numbers that I would say, as I look back, those are kind of more pre-pandemic, back in 2019 and whatnot. So they're not low coming down. I think they just came off the high of the COVID year that was kind of had a banner year for everything else in Sea Pines. Okay, that's done for the slides. A few things I do want to say, I wanted to kind of finish up with. We had a big, a gentleman that went missing you're all aware of, and that got national and international attention. Something we necessarily don't want to see at Sea Pines, but it happened. Something we don't have very often here. But I wanted to give a shout out to a couple of things. One was my officers who, they continued to keep the patrol checks going, the citations that I was hard on them, following through trucks, doing all the things that they do, but they spent every last waking moment dealing with that. They looked and searched, and they had very little downtime during that, I guess, 10-day to 2-week period. I've worked with a lot of, most of I had a 35-year career in law enforcement, and dealt with a lot of good professionals. And you should really be proud of these folks here. Dispatch, the gates, the patrol officers, the dedication they gave to that, to helping not only from themselves, but the Beaufort County Sheriff's Department assist that we did that was critical in finally locating him. So that was something that I just wanted to give my hats off to them, and you all should be proud of what they've done and what they did with that situation. So that's going to end my presentation, and I'll be glad to take any comments or questions.
The only thing I want to add is to what Joe said about the employees during the that tragedy and what they did and their continued. I mean, that they went above and beyond, and I appreciate Joe and the working relationship he's developed with the Sheriff's Department, and that was reflected in the Sheriff's comments about CPIN security at the end of the investigation. And you know, it's important for us to have a very solid relationship with our local law enforcement agency, and we clearly have that, Joe. And I want to thank you for that, and thank the men and women that work for you for all they did during that and what they've been doing for the community over the last year.
Thank you, Joe.
Sam, appreciate it.
Any questions, comments from the board? Well, we thank you. Next item is electric lawn equipment. Larry Mupson.
Thank you, David. First, I want to note the task force that was created included me, David Pardue, Andrea Tarbox, and Rick Ray, and David Ellis also, and Sam sat in on it. The community may remember, I think it's roughly two and a half years ago, the board adopted a new standard for gas power for lawn blowers that would require that lawn blowers meet a level of 75 dBi based on the manufacturer's standard. We hope that would allay some of the concerns that have been voiced in the community about the noise coming from our landscapers' equipment. I think there's been some compliance with that. Perhaps the compliance and enforcement is hard to determine, because in order to find someone, a landscaper that's not meeting that, you need to call our land use managers and hope they get there before the landscaper leaves. And so I'm sure the level of enforcement wasn't great. And so the task force was created to determine whether it was time for us to move to a requirement that all landscapers use only battery operated equipment. And particularly, I think we were focused on what I'll call the small equipment, the leaf blowers and edgers, rather than the larger lawnmowers. The task force attended a few demonstrations by equipment manufacturers that are actually selling this equipment. But more importantly, thanks to our staff, we got a list of the nearly 150 landscapers that have obtained commercial tags to be able to come into our community, and that are servicing our community of some 5,800 homes, which is far more than any other of the associations on the island, probably even more than the town of Hilton Head. And we use that list to call out and to contact and talk to landscapers of various sizes, from the very largest that have multiple tags, to middle size ones that have 4 or 5 trucks coming in, to several that have only 1 or 2 tags, to determine their views on what it would take to move over to battery equipment only. There is, in fact, one manufacturer that is being used by the Greenery in particular, and I think also by Brightscape and 1 or 2 other large ones, that in fact is a very high quality equipment. It has a very long warranty provided by the manufacturer, fairly expensive. And we made that note. We talked to the Greenery, which is using it, to get their experience, and they did find that it worked generally well in most circumstances, not as well as gas powered would in wet communities, and not necessarily as well as it might in some of the larger HOAs that they might be serving, but they were very pleased with it. And we also talked to the smaller communities that are the smaller landscapers that are aware of the availability of this equipment. And almost universally, they raised 3 similar concerns. One was the price, the cost of a battery operated equipment, whether it's this high level, high quality, or some of the more commonly used available that you can get at Graco or one of the large box stores, would be much more than a gas power blower. other than this very high quality equipment manufacturer, the lesser ones have relatively short warranties, 1 or 2 years. And so they were concerned that they would be investing without any backup from the manufacturer, that they were going to last as long as their gas-powered equipment. Second, they were concerned about the having to replace gas-powered equipment that they bought either recently or that they use with lifespans of 8 or 10 years because they have the ability to fix them. But most importantly, they were concerned really about the ability to find charging equipment to recharge battery-operated devices. Many of your landscapers don't have big offices. They don't have places that they can go back to with charging stations. Many of them are either working out of their trucks or maybe in a box storage facility that they use. And so their big concern was the number of batteries that they would have to buy, which are very expensive, to be able to make it through a single day with a crew of 2 or 3 people working 4 or 5 stations, and both the cost of that, and then separately, just where would they recharge them overnight? And they were quite concerned about being asked to move to battery equipment until the issues of charging and the availability of inexpensive chargers and the availability of longer equipment that with warranties that they could trust. And so after considering all of these issues, the task force believes that it is simply too early in the life cycle of the new battery operated equipment for the commercial landscapers in our community to impose any requirements. We think that those opportunities will come in the 2-3 year future when more equipment is available at a reasonable price with reasonable warranties, or has been tested to last past the warranties. Because again, many of our smaller manufacturers can fix their gas-powered equipment and make them last 6 and 7 years, well beyond the warranty. And also the charging issue, which is where will they be able to charge them during the day and overnight to be able to afford to keep the price of extra batteries. So David, our recommendation to the board is that we continue to study this matter, that the task force remain in place. I should also note that our Sea Pines Owners Association, the SPPOA, did a study of their members. It wasn't scientific. They simply went out and asked their members what they thought about this issue. And somewhat to our surprise, a majority of their respondents did not favor imposing requirements at this time. They thought, nor did a majority even find the noise from glass blowers to be that offensive. They, on a scale of 1 to 10, the substantial but majority of those commenting did not find it to be that offensive. And so it's not even clear to us that although there is certainly a vocal group of homeowners who don't like the noise, that it is in fact, that is a widespread view, and certainly not that we should be imposing on our landscaping providing community requirements that they go out and invest in battery operated equipment at this time. I should also note that in that survey, a number of property owners provided alternatives that we may want to consider in the future. For example, limiting on a zonal basis where your landscapers can work, so that the noise will occur on Monday, Tuesday, and not Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. But those are ideas that I think the task force should be taking up, as well as looking at the final decision whether or not to impose restricting our landscapers to battery only. So at the end of the day, our recommendation is that we continue to study it, but that no requirement be imposed at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Let me add this comment. I formed this task force because I had attended a demonstration by one of the equipment manufacturers that indicated that equipment had reached that level of cost, and that one of the major landscapers was moving in that direction. I am personally a very strong advocate of reducing noise and emissions and using electric equipment. So I have to tell you that in going through and working with the task force, I am convinced, as much as I would like to do this, that the data and the practicalities of it do not justify, even in my opinion, as an advocate, imposing this on the community. But I would like to say that we're going to continue to monitor this, as Larry mentioned. And as additional data comes forth, if we come to a different conclusion, you know, the board can move to a different decision. But one thing I would like to suggest to property owners, particularly those who are very bothered by the noise, that if you have not already moved yourself to electric equipment, or had your landscaper and talk with them about moving to electric equipment, please do so, because you can be an entity that can help move it in that direction, and you can get the personal experience in dealing with your own landscapers as to how they feel about it. So let's for those who want it and want it now, let's see what we can do by self-help. And other than that, we will continue monitoring the data. Thank you very much to all of the task force. I think we started off with the idea that the time had been reached, but the dedication and the deep diving into, and particularly the talking with all of our landscapers, large and small, has led to a decision that I think is a proper one. So thank you. The next item is gates and signage. Cliff, you want to take on that?
I will. Thank you, David. Yeah, and as you did earlier, as David had mentioned, there's some short-term signage solution samples that have been put in place on Greenwood. So as you enter the approach the gate, just take a look at those, and we'd be glad to get your feedback. From a gate perspective, you know, the task force that was assembled, led by Tom Sharp, David Ellis, and Sam Bennett, and Steve Birdwell, and myself, Victoria Shanahan as well, you know, has been really focused on improving the throughput of the gate and all pass types, all access types, improving the you know, access control, security, just the welcoming experience. And so we knew that was going to be anchored in a software solution. And so most of the time has been spent so far developing an RFI, and Ann Esposito and her vast knowledge of that market and that process was very instrumental in producing this request for information. And I'm glad to announce that RFI is out to the market and is being reviewed by participating vendors. And so that team mentioned earlier will be working over the next 45 days or so with these participating vendors to determine what software solutions are most applicable to our conditions. So we understand we have a unique situation here with private residences, commercial properties, and so it's going to be interesting to see how things develop over the course of the next 2 months. Once we do get that feedback from the market of what software solutions are most applicable, we'll dive into the research of which of these solutions we would like to include in a request for proposal to those vendors, as well as maybe an expanded group at that point once we put our finger on the solution. So that's where we are with the gate. It's the software process there. We're moving along, and so we hope to be able to report back here in the next 45 to 60 days on some next steps there. And then the other, I'll mention this, Larry, then we come back. Then on the other bookend, the circle, while we continue to press the town of Hilton Head, as well as the state DOT on producing a viable solution that takes into account all other work going on within the town's vehicular corridors. We're glad to announce that we have seen some action from the town of Hilton Head. They've engaged Kimley Horn and have been working over the last 30 days or so on developing options for design improvements to the circle. and which we've seen brief drafts of that information, nothing to take away. That was all in preparation for a workshop that the town has scheduled for October 8th at 1 o'clock. So where they will present to council their initial findings and encourage the council to continue to fuel that effort to move forward. With the town producing this solution, I think it's a collaboration effort to make sure that it does work within our jurisdiction here. But really the overall goal is to get the state to fund and manage the improvement itself. So we've got a lot of irons in the fire there, and Tom's doing a great job of leading that effort. And so yeah, just good, very promising action taken by the town. We'll look forward to seeing more on the 8th at that workshop.
Thank you, Cliff. Tom, you want to add anything before we have questions?
You're muted, Tom.
Yeah. Thank you, David. Yeah, just a slight, that was a very good overview. I think the key here is that in working with the state, well, first, let me back up. I think most people realize that we have a combination of ownership of Greenwood as a CSA managed highway, and the Circle is actually a town highway, and there are 3 arterials that come in, and the town working with the state manages that. What we are doing is bringing that into one project. I think as Cliff mentioned, we've given that a name just so it has some legs to stand on, and you may see this, it's called SITSIP. So it's the South Island Traffic Circle Improvement Plan. This brings Greenwood and the Circle together in one engineering project. Kimberly Horn is the engineering firm working on both pieces of that. And as Cliff mentioned, the town is progressing on theirs, and we are working with Kimberly Horn on engineering options for Greenwood that match the engineering being done on the Circle. So in effect, we'll have one large project rather than 2 projects trying to be coordinated at the same time. In that light, we're working very closely with the state to take some leadership. Tom Davis has been very instrumental in helping us with that. And it just makes good sense to bring all of this together. While I'll just conclude, while we're working with a congestion problem at both ends of Greenwood, the real problem in my mind is project completion. We need to accelerate this project. There's really been no effort, probably over the 8 to 10 years, to give this piece of highway on Hilton Head Island proper improvement. It does manage all the traffic on the south end of the island. It's not, while we tend to see it daily in terms of having a problem getting into the Circle, it is also a metering device for, honestly, most of the traffic that goes to the south end of the island. So what we've tried to do is bring more of a emphasis on this so we can do some acceleration on the project that probably should have been addressed over the last 8 to 10 years. So I just wanted to mention that. We oftentimes look at this as just an engineering project, and it is. But behind the scenes, quite the big work is getting this accelerated in terms of funding, in terms of getting some a timetable in order to plan construction and actually make the implementation of this. We're making progress. Transportation projects tend to be a little slow and complicated because of all the parties involved, but we are moving forward with emphasis. The fact that we have both Greenwood and the Circle and defined into one engineering project under SITSIP, I think is a good start. So that's all I have, David.
Thank you, Tom. I think I saw a hand go up or two. Larry?
Yeah, this is a question both to Cliff and to Joe Count. I assume the effectiveness of the new signage is based on how many turnarounds we get. And Joe, do we have a number of turnarounds that we can average on a monthly basis to compare to what we might hopefully see with new signage, so we can figure out whether it's working?
I don't know if Joe's there, but
I can answer that
you can
question.
answer that.
Yeah, but Joe's team does keep a monthly count, Larry, of turnarounds. And that will certainly be a data point for us as the signage goes up. We want to know if the sign's working or not. And that's really the only way for us to tell, is if it's communicating the information we want shared with the folks coming in.
Okay, thank you.
And this is the one sign you see there is temporary. There are going to be others that'll be temporary. We're trying to experiment with color, visibility, height, and things until we can get the actual permanent signs done, which I said the state is going to help us with the designs of those, and they're entirely different. But yes, that is a measure.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
David, I'd like to add, I want to thank publicly again the town of Hilton Head for all their help, and as Tom Sharp mentioned, I want to thank Senator Tom Davis for his leadership at the state level. He has been a great advocate for us. And I want the community to be aware of how much he's working on behalf of the Sea Pines community to bring this project to fruition.
Yep.
Thank you. I think that's important. All right, financial report, Leanne.
Okay. So in the board package, you have financial statements for the 7 months ended July 31st, as well as of July 31st. And that contains the balance sheet, the income statement, the statement of changes in fund balance, and some capital related budgets to actual reports. The finance committee meets just about every other month and reviews the financial statements. And these July 31st statements are the most recent available and have been reviewed by both the finance committee and the executive committee. So the balance sheet continues to be strong. We are at the point where we've been collecting cash and investments and deploying those as we see fit to basically hold ourselves in a liquidity position to some extent, because we do anticipate, as you've heard, in the fourth quarter of this calendar year, we will be spending a significant amount of funds on MR&R across South Sea Pines Drive and the Lighthouse Lane area. The investments held are in accordance with the board policy, and that's something the finance committee reviews on a quarterly basis, and we're happy with that compliance. Accounts receivable on the balance sheet has two components, and Victoria talked about the collection rates on both the dues and the rental registration. We do monitor those very closely with information from management. And the other changes in the balance sheet have been pretty normal and typical for the operations through this time of the year. Moving on to the income statement, our total budget is about $21 million for the whole year. And through the 7 months, the revenues in total are very consistent with what we expected. But as you've heard from some of the other reports, the consistency regarding subcategories, whether you look at daily gate passes, those are down a bit. Commercial passes are down even more than that. But what we've seen is that annual decal purchases are up on a commercial basis, which it appears that vendors are switching between the daily passes to the decals, and likely because of a price increase that was instituted a year ago. We have some other fluctuations in the income statement regarding various open administrative positions, which are giving us some favorable variances. Our insurance costs came out lower than we expected. Since the budget was created, the premiums came in lower, so that's a permanent variance. The MR&R spending through July 31st is at about $3.5 million, which is below budget. Again, that depends on the timing and the seasonality. But I will tell you that in this last quarter, August and September, and then the last quarter of the year, the expected spending is in excess of $5 million of additional spending. And some of those items will be presented in budget amendments coming up. But it's just to remind folks that the construction timeframes are very constricted based upon seasonality, access to various areas. So these expenditures tend to be seasonal. The cumulative, I'll talk about infrastructure right now, and just to mention that the cumulative spending to date and then estimated through the end of 2024 is about $14 million of critical infrastructure spending dollars. But we will have collected about 13 million. So we are ramping up at a pace where we are spending the funds that have been collected and then spending some in advance. So we are trying to put the dollars to work, at the very critical areas and move through the priority projects first. The statement of changes in fund balance has a roll forward of the funds that are basically in various categories, and we focus very closely on compliance with board policy regarding emergency funds and capital reserves. And we also track the undesignated and infrastructure funds very carefully as well. We have the last 2 pages of the presentation are more details about the M&R spending and budget, as well as normal capital and equipment changes. So as I said, the Finance Committee went through these reports in detail. They were presented to the Executive Committee. I'm happy to answer any questions. And after that, I will look for a motion for approval.
Questions, comments? Do you want to make the motion for approval?
Yes, I'll make the motion to approve the July 31st, 2024 financial statements as presented and as recommended by the Executive Committee.
Second.
Okay. Any more discussion? All in favor, raise your hands. Any opposed, likewise? Passes unanimously. All right, thank you. Next, we'll go to unfinished business. The first thing is the nominating committee for Class A directors. David Perdue, you want to report on that?
Yes, thank you, David. I chaired the committee for the nominating committee, and joining me were Jim Caskey and Leanne Leahy. There are 3 board seats that are going to be open, Class A board seats. We interviewed 5 people and approved them all. Let's see, they were Michael Basham, Jennifer Erickson, Dave Schotmer, who were new people. But then Tom Sharp also is going to be, his 3-year term expires this year, and he's running again for next year. And then Bill Johnson, who was a former board member and is seeking re-election again. We approved all 5. However, since then, Michael Basham has withdrawn his nomination. So now we have 4 people running for apparently 3 seats, but that was before Steve dropped out yesterday. I don't know the effect of that, but nevertheless, we've approved the 4 people. So unless there's a nominee by petition that comes up in the next 2 weeks, then that will be the 4 that will be that will be in the running. As far as I know, the ballots will be sent out late October, early November, and then it'll be sent back to Elliot Davis, who will be counting the ballots, and the results will be known more or less the first week or so in December. So unless there's any question, and by the way, all the people we interviewed are at least in my opinion, are qualified and we're all vetted to have their hat in the ring. So unless there's any questions, that's the report of the nominating committee.
Thank you, David. Any questions, comments? Okay, then we'll move on to the next one. Don Stigman, the nominating committee for the Class B directors, commercial. You're on mute, Don.
Yes. Right now we're nominating please, Bob Gossett and Tim again for next year.
Okay. Any questions, Don, comments? Thank you, Don. The next item is the approval of the Board of Directors and Committee meeting schedule. You have a copy of that draft in your packet. It essentially mirrors what we've been doing with a few little changes. Anybody have any questions or comments? Otherwise, somebody make a motion that we approve the schedule. Okay, Tom Sharp made the motion. That's second.
Second.
Okay, second. Any further discussion? All in favor, raise your hands. Any opposed, likewise? All right, the next I'm gonna call Sam. There's some property transaction that, and Sam's gonna explain it, so I'm gonna let you just start from scratch without any comments from me.
Well, I think we talked about at the beginning of the meeting, this is the Murfield 2 POA transaction that I discussed with the board under my president's report. And Steve Burnell asked the question, what did CSA pay for the property originally? And it was the grand total of $600 at the county tax sale. So that's what CSA has invested this from a purchase perspective. So I would, what I'd like the board to do is authorize me to this resolution to finalize this transaction with Murfield 2 Village. I'll send out the survey to the board for the board to look at. Again, it's just a common property that was originally owned by Murfield 2. CSA is going to be returning it to Murfield 2. We're splitting the costs associated with this transaction, and then Murfield 2 is assumed has been doing all the maintenance, but they also have all the liability associated with the property now. And Steve, I will certainly make sure that you and I and John Farrell and your golf team are on board with anything that needs to be cleaned up. But I think they are. I think they're in a good position right now, but I'll confirm that before we move ahead. So I'd ask the board to authorize me to do that. And then I'll make that happen as the legal documents are put together, and then bring it back to the board to verify to them that the transaction has occurred.
Anyone make a motion to ratify approval of the
So moved.
encroachment agreement resolution?
So moved.
Okay, Leanne did. And then who seconded it?
I will.
I thought I saw hands. Okay, we got a second. Any further discussion? Comments? All in favor, raise your hands. Any opposed, likewise? Okay, and then we have one encroachment agreement at 3 Heritage Court in Heritage Woods, lot 19. You have electronically indicated your approval of this. Is there any further discussion on this encroachment agreement? If not, then I have a motion to ratify the approval of the encroachment agreement. That's Tom, the second. Leanne, any discussion or comments? I think we've all asked a lot of questions previously while it was being circulated. All in favor, raise your hands. Any opposed, likewise. We now come to adjournment, in which after that we'll go to questions and answers. But let me make a couple of comments, and I'll make them short because this hasn't been a long meeting. To our property owners, I hope you have seen through what's been presented today and the information and the activities and operations that CSA is dealing with the meats and potatoes of the operation of our community. Significant areas that need attention and need to be upgraded are being done. It's working. And it's kind of a quiet way of doing work, but the work is actually, you can see the work is getting done. It's just not a lot of fanfare and so forth. So I want you to appreciate that. We appreciate it. That's the purpose of CSA, to provide these services and to try to continue to enhance our community as a premier community in the state and this area of the country. With that, I will make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, okay, second. Oh, we got a second. All in favor, raise your hand. Okay. And do we need to take a break? See if Stephanie has any additional.
There are no additional questions.
Okay, so we got a number of questions in. And let me start with The first question is legal fees on the gate agreement litigation. There are a lot of rumors about, I mean, I've seen the word, we're spending millions of dollars on this, et cetera. Let me remind you that CSA, like I guess most businesses and even people, have insurance. That insurance, when we get sued, provides the defense, hires the attorney, and pays the cost of defending the lawsuit. There are no millions of dollars being spent on this lawsuit. And so, you know, that's basically what happens in most all of our lawsuits, so that you're aware of that. We have a question, someone wants to know if we can make a rule for no open carry, talking about guns, in C5.
I'll take that one, David.
You know the answer?
Yes. Unfortunately, CSA doesn't have the statutory authority to place the necessary signage in all of the thousands of acres that we own and parcels that we own across the community. So it's really dependent on the individual property owners and the commercial businesses that they choose to place the signage that's required by the state of South Carolina under the recent law that was adopted. So it's not something we can do by just posting a notice at the gate. There are very specific requirements in the state code. And for us to do something like that, it's unfortunately, it's not practical at this time, and there's just no way for us to do it.
Okay. The next question, again, back, we have several of them concerning the gate agreement and attorney's fees. This wants to know why we don't show the gate agreement, what we're attempting to hide. And this is going to address, this is going to come up in later questions, and I'm going to answer it now. This decision on the gate agreement was made before I was on the board. And as it came along, I have questioned whether or not this was a correct or legal thing to do. And I pressed our attorneys, our own attorneys, the ones that represent CSA. We operate under the South Carolina Nonprofit Act. It is important in that act interpretation of some various provisions. One of those provisions relates to what is to be disclosed or what may not be disclosed. Our attorneys have given us advice as to what should be disclosed and what should not be disclosed as their interpretation. There is no case law on it. There is, I think, an attorney general's opinion, but those are not binding. But but in any event, as I listened to what the attorney said, and as my experience as attorneys, I've come to realize that if we hire attorneys and we're confident in our attorneys, and they are advising us to go against their advice, is usually not a wise thing. I can remember how many times I've told my clients, I can advise you and you can pay to get my advice, and you can do what you want to do. But I can also say that most times when they did not go with my advice, and not just mine, I'm not bragging on myself, it's just attorney's advice, the decision they made was not the way, didn't turn out the way they wanted it, and it was a different result. So we are following the advice of our attorneys. This is an important enough issue that, you know, we're going to continue the process, and we have. So I hope that answers the question. It's as best as I can. Anybody has any, board has any comments, you can make them if you want to. But I'll move on to the next question. We have a couple of questions about live meetings. Why don't we go to live meetings? And I'm really talking about in-person meetings. I think that we need to look at the equity of what we're doing. We have members, 5,900 members, who are in 45 states, 8 countries. A lot of them are not here. A lot of them are part-time. A lot of them virtually never come here. They may be just investors and own properties, but they are property owners. And we have come up with this process of these meetings, doing a virtual meeting as a method that any and everybody can participate. They can view the videos. They can go to segment points and minutes and see the videos. And we've had over 14,700 views of our videos of our meetings in the last 4 years. So I think it's important that we understand the equality of this is that if we go to where people can see us and in person and come into the same room, those people who are not here and who don't come here, which are a vast number of people, do not have the same equality or equity to make their own opinions known and make their own comments known. So I think it's important that we practice equity. The other thing is these virtual meetings, as you have seen with the presentations that we do, we're in the 21st century. You know, I think you can look at, it's like doing away with paper. You reach a point that you go online, you go digital, and that's what it becomes. It's hard for whatever reasons people don't, want in the comments, and I appreciate your desire. I appreciate your opinion. It's just that at this time, at least I and the board, because it's the only could happen, are inclined that we continue the meetings this way. Let's see what else we got. We have a question about South Beach Pool. Will it be open for the 2025 season? I'm going to ask Bob Gossett, are you online? Bob, I don't know if you're online or not. Okay. Well, then
I'm here.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Go ahead. You want to answer that question?
Oh, there you are. Yeah. Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Well, as I've stated in the previous CSA meeting, and anyone who calls me, we've told them the pool is 60 years old or so. It's we're leaking 5,000 gallons a day. We started back in 2018 to look at different locations for the pool. Could we relocate it and still keep the existing one in service? Couldn't come up with a suitable location on the property. So we are in the process now. I've had some prints drawn about rebuilding the pool. We're talking to, for 1 year-round pool. We met them on site as recently as last week. I made a commitment to the property owners back in about 1999. I'm honoring that agreement, but I'm working with a pool that was no longer serviceable. So we're working as fast as we can to get a serviceable pool back on the property. As soon as I have a firm schedule, I will share it with the community.
Thank you. And this next question is related to the South Beach swimming pool covenants and restrictions. And they want to know, will CSA, they want to know CSA allow Bob Gossett to breach the recorded covenants and restrictions that require a pool to be operated in South Beach. There is no violation in the covenants. CSA will enforce those covenants and agreement. If they're breached at this stage, we're dealing, as you heard Mr. Gossett say, a deteriorated pool that is going to require substantial repairs or replacement or whatever. That's just the nature of things. When things wear out, you've got to replace them, and you've got to do without them during that particular time. But as long as there is going to, that there are plans within a reasonable time that there be a swimming pool put back in operation, the covenants are not in violation. We are not allowing any violation or any breach of that agreement. We will enforce that, just so you know. All of the other questions I have been related to the things that, which one?
We have one.
Oh, we do have one question.
Number 8. Yeah,
number 8. There's a question about, we hear about signs on Wagon Road prohibiting truck traffic. And they want to know if we're going to need additional signage to do that. Joe Count has assessed the situation, and signage is now in progress.
Yes, Jared Mays is making the signs, and they'll be putting the signs up as soon as they're ready.
Okay. I think that answers all the questions. Sam, do you see anything that I've overlooked? Because there are so many multiple questions for the same topic.
No, sir.
All right, with that in mind, then we will sign off. Go home, eat, play golf, enjoy the sunshine, because for those of you who are not here, this is an absolutely beautiful day. So enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you, board
Goodbye.
members. Thank you, community.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.